Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life. And this article comes to you guys from Yahoo Finance. I'll leave a link to it in the description so you guys could check it out. So this specific fiber deal with Metronet tells us a few things, and I wanted to clarify those things in this video today. So T-Mobile internally clearly had a shift in strategy. And the reason we know that is because fiber, for those of you who remember the 2021 Analyst Day for T-Mobile, fiber was not on the agenda. And that was just a few years ago, right? And the guide that they gave, the full financial outlook, was really through 2026. So they had no fiber on that agenda. That was not baked into the finances that they presented, the guides that they gave through 2026, the revenue estimates, nothing. Fiber was not a part of any of that. So since 2021, strategy changed quite a bit around where the company is going, how the company is evolving, and how the company feels about fiber. And we see that now because the money is actually being spent. Right? It's no longer just speculation. It's no longer just rumored. It's actually being spent, and pen is being put on paper. So the deals are actually happening. So now, right, you might say, well, okay, so how can T-Mobile afford this? Right? I've seen that comment that a few of you have made. So T-Mobile has cash on hand. T-Mobile has been generating free cash flow for a while now, but just within the last year is really their peak on free cash flow. Now, the free cash flow will continue to expand, but they have to branch off. They have to branch off into another business segment that produces cash generating revenue for them, and fiber would be it, right? Fiber would be something that they could charge a good amount of ARPU, average price per user, and make some solid revenue, accretive revenue, and profits from that business. So, and of course, they clearly decided they did not want to lay their own fiber and increase capital that way. So they're doing it through leasing. So how can they afford it? So what I believe they're going to do, and it's not going to take a rocket scientist to figure this out, I believe they're going to invest buyback capital into fiber. So buyback capital is already something that you could say they spent because they guided, I think they guided like 60 billion in buybacks. They're going to shave some of that off for this fiber investment. And I'm here to tell you guys, the Wall Street, the investors, they are going to be fine with it. And in fact, if this turns out in any way successful early on, right? Let's say T-Mobile has high penetration early on. The street is going to pressure T-Mobile to invest even more. They're going to say, why aren't you doing this quicker? Why aren't you getting more homes passed? Because they see dollar signs. T-Mobile is good. One thing they know how to do is execute. And when they're in that mode, that current team as structured, that current senior executive team, if that doesn't change drastically over the next few years, when they get in that mode and they want to grow and they want to attack a certain business, they know how to do it. Especially with this convergent piece. And that's another thing that T-Mobile is signaling to us. By doing this, they're getting ready to go bigger on convergence, just like AT&T is doing. So with the convergent piece, right, you're now opening up your wireless brand to a whole nother base that may have never, ever looked your way, right? And some of these areas that T-Mobile is getting to with attaching their brand to Metronet, those customers probably never wanted to try T-Mobile, but now with this convergence piece, it gives T-Mobile another look. So now those customers are going to be like, if we can bundle with this fiber and we get T-Mobile's internet, I mean, a wireless, we get a discount. And if T-Mobile approaches us that way, it's an easy win. I mean, just look at the numbers that AT&T presented yesterday. Those are staggering numbers. I don't know if you guys realize that. 40%. And they just started tracking that in 2021. So that 40% convergence, right? So 8.8 million customers of fiber, 3.5 million of those 8.8 are on wireless as well. That's pretty much a slam dunk. And let's not forget that 40% could increase. AT&T could do something to increase that number. We don't know what that is, but they could increase that number if they get more aggressive. So just think about it. If AT&T can pull off 40%, just think about T-Mobile. They grow the most on wireless. Just think about what they could possibly pull off on this whole convergence piece. So this is what they're signaling to us. They're telling us our strategy has changed. We're now ready to go into fiber and invest, right? 4.9 billion is still a lot of money. Yes, it only gets them 50% stake, but they're buying up assets. And who knows in the future if KKR is willing to make T-Mobile majority owner, maybe T-Mobile buys the other 50% at some point, becomes 100% owner. All of that now becomes a possibility as we move through the rest of this decade. So yes, it shows us that T-Mobile has changed strategy, right? It also shows us that maybe, possibly FWA was just like a stopgap. Like, yes, we now have the customer, right, on FWA. We were able to converge that specific customer that's using our FWA over to wireless because they told us early on they have a decent percentage of convergence on FWA with wireless. And now they if possible, and if they can strike that deal, they upgrade that FWA customer to fiber. Right? It might be a little bit more expensive. Maybe T-Mobile creates a speed tier, or they have a speed tier that they price the same as FWAs to make it a smooth transition for that consumer. Now that leads to lower churn. I mean, all of that now just opens up the possibilities. So that's just something that I wanted to talk about in this video. What is T-Mobile really showing us and telling us by making these moves, right? And are they going to make more of these JV purchases? Yes. 1,000% they are going to make more of these purchases. The deal just makes sense, right? You take a little bit off the top of the buybacks, right? You invest that capital into fiber, which produces more revenue, profits, margins, all that good stuff. And now with the convergence piece, right, they're preaching ARPA, average price per account. Now you can increase the ARPA potentially on more accounts, right? Some of those customers might uptake. They might take the higher end speed tier, which is 70, 80 bucks. Who knows, right? 90 bucks. T-Mobile is going to make more money off of that. So it starts at the rep level, right? It starts at the store reps level. If you can converge and you can sell them on a good tier, right, that makes T-Mobile more money, of course. But that leads to so much more later on down the line, right? The more revenue that's generated, the more cash T-Mobile has on hand, right? Now we could start opening up the possibilities for fiber to the sale. T-Mobile, buys fiber, they add it to the sale because the owner's economics make sense. Right? That's what they're waiting on, right? And the wireless piece, right? You could make the argument, for those of you who stuck around to the end of the video, you could make the argument that wireless kind of has been stagnant, right? We really haven't seen C-band and DoD deployments. Yes, they're still spending the 9 to 10 billion roughly, but we really haven't seen them say much about wireless, right? Just think back to all the earnings calls leading up to these fiber announcements. They really haven't came out and said where they're taking N41 next, right? Are they going to 310 million, 15? Nothing. They've been relatively quiet to the market on what's next with wireless, right? So we will probably get announcements early fall when T-Mobile presents, but you could make the argument that T-Mobile has been stagnant and quiet on wireless because they were trying to get this fiber thing rolling. They knew what they were doing. Of course, behind the scenes, they knew ahead of time that they were going to do this. They committed to it internally. So you can make the argument that wireless could start now that they got this fiber out the way, they figured out how to fund it. You could now make the argument that wireless is going to start ramping up again, right? We should hear about C-band and DoD deployments, how they're going to go about that, how aggressive they're going to be. That company by history is usually very detailed. They tell you, okay, we're going to deploy this spectrum in the top 25. They're very open and transparent with their network deployments. They've been very secretive on C-band and DoD. So they were clearly trying to get this fiber thing off the ground. So that's what they've been working behind the scenes. They've been prioritizing the fiber piece. You know, I'm just being honest here. Not saying that they're you know, killing off wireless. That's clearly not happening. But we haven't heard much from them around wireless. So in the future, right, get ready. They're gonna talk wireless again because they're still even after these fiber deals, and they're pretty big, but they're still largely pure wireless play. Even with fiber, they would have to reach a huge amount of penetration for fiber to really start making even a small dent on the balance sheet. So wireless is clearly still the bread and butter, and will be even if they reach a good amount of penetration on fiber. Bread and butter is still going to be wireless. So be on the lookout for that. I've warmed you guys up to it. I'm giving you guys hints here and there. Just get ready for wireless to start, you know, playing a bigger role again at these earnings and when they present, because they still have some stuff left in the tank, right, to deploy. They still have areas to grow coverage in. They still have that C-band and DoD sitting in the warehouses, so to speak. They need to you know, knock the dust off, and they need to start deploying that, right? And in some areas it might be too soon. They might be generating too much capacity now, right? Fixing N41 fragmentation is also a high priority now. So that's something that they could be working on too before even thinking about deploying C-band and DoD. So all that becomes a possibility, right? So let me not make this video too long, but all of that becomes a possibility further down the line. Fiber is a big piece to unlocking maybe new ideas, new generation of cash for them to do fiber to the cell. Maybe at some point they do outright buy some of these companies they're dealing with. Who knows what could happen down the line? But the deals are happening. T-Mobile is putting pen to paper, and let's look forward to more of these deals happening. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe if you're new. Follow my social media outlets. This is Tyrone with Tech Life. See y'all in the next one. Peace.